So we are here with our recent client and now good friend, Ameer. Welcome. Thank you for coming on today.
Yeah.
He'll be sharing today about how he got a girlfriend very quickly, his experience with dating, why he chose to work with us. So Ameer, tell us a little bit about yourself, what your background is.
Yep. So my name's Ameer. I'm from London. I've been in Mexico City, living here since October, like full time. But I did live here back in 2022 as well. Fell in love with the city, like a lot of people do. And then when I came back last year in October, I've been an entrepreneur for quite a while now, a couple of years now since the pandemic. When it came to the dating sort of thing, like I kept like pushing it back. Part of that was like a lot of kind of, my previous relationship was like kind of before the pandemic sort of thing. And then it was that kind of like, I'm going to make as much money as possible. I'm going to do this and this and this. And you end up in this situation where I made a lot of money, and then it's like, wait, aren't the women supposed to?
What now?
Where are they? Like
That's
they
what everyone tells you, right?
Well, yeah, like
That's money
there's
status, yeah.
and don't get me wrong, like I think it's a both and sort
Yeah.
of thing. Like I do think that at the same time, like it's not sustainable to sort of only just like be going after girls and not have anything else going for you.
Right.
So this was a piece like, I'd kind of solved one piece of my life,
Right.
but this was a piece that I'd been pushing back, and I was pushing back probably because like I was just like kind of not wanting to face it.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people maybe fall into this trap, especially if you're an entrepreneur, and quite successful, is like, oh yeah, like, if I just keep making more money, or if I keep, then it's just like, and I definitely, to kind of talk about what Jaron was on about, there is a lot of that content. I did go down that sort of red pill route kind of content, like, especially during that period after like that, previous relationship.
Right.
Oh, okay. So yeah, if I just become successful, then, that's when dating will just be so easy.
Yes.
And that was like one of the things when we first started working. Sometimes with coaching and consulting, because, obviously I've had a lot of mentors in the past. Sometimes it's just those one or two things that unlock something, breaking a mental belief. So I first started working with Jaron, and then we started working together afterwards. It was that, because it was that I was very much if I do this, but once I become fluent in Spanish, once I make X amount per month, once I have X% body fat, then I'll start dating, And I think when we started just sort of like overcoming that's when I think things clicked in. Like I would say that like that's probably also why my results were relatively quick, because I did have some other stuff going for me.
And you had that process built through your business ventures already.
Yep.
I think when I was working with you, you'd just not identified that you had already overcome those in your entrepreneurial pursuits, but you hadn't applied that to dating yet.
Exactly.
Because when we met you, I mean, you're probably one of the most successful people we've met. And so from, I think both Jared and I in the past, we would have been like, oh, if we reached where you were, everything would just happen, right? Like you said, you're looking under the couch. Where are they?
What made you call us in the first point?
Yeah. What was your motivation?
So I remember this sort of moment because like I said, I came back to Mexico City in October. That's when my business really started to like, ramp up. And I remember it was, February 2024, I made an obscene amount of money that month. I don't know if I'll say how much it was. You already know how much it was. But a lot of money. I remember that moment because it was like, kind of like still in that mindset of like, oh yeah, like, I've surely now they do I like, I don't know, send a form to the bank and they get me a girlfriend or something? I don't know, like, so
I leave candy outside my door?
Yeah,
when they come?
like it was sort of like, damn, like I'm successful, made this huge milestone, accomplishment, stuff like that, and I'm still unhappy. Mm-hmm. And I think it was really, that kind of reflection moment where it was like I should be happy, I should, but I'm lonely as hell. It was really that feeling of loneliness. Like I had friends and stuff like that, obviously, but that feeling of like connection and intimacy and having someone was something that I, hadn't had in years, and something that like I think a lot of guys want,
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we all want that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So I'd kind of known Jaron because he was the one mainly on YouTube at the time.
Yep.
I think maybe I was subscribed to him and would watch a few videos here and there, but was kind of like, I need to find a coach. I kind of had to drop my ego and just went, I need to find someone. But then I was like, well, this guy seems to be actually in the city. So it's like, oh, well, we'll find someone that's a foreigner living in Mexico City and sort of understands the culture, the landscape, all this sort of stuff. So I booked a call. Salespeople and entrepreneurs, we kind of make this joke like I wouldn't book a call unless I was going to buy something. I don't waste time, either mine or
Another
other
tire
people's.
kicker.
Yeah.
I appreciate that, by the way. Thank you.
Yeah, I kind of knew like, okay, this, Jaron, he obviously knows what he's talking about. And so we decided to start working together. I had some issues like trying to find a photographer for my online profile. So there was a lot of like kind of delay and stuff like that, So really, like, I think we only really started doing it properly was when like you came in as well, and we kind of, it was really that, I think, 2-month period from like May to July or something like that. That was when like
you really started
things started to really start to click.
Because I remember that you had gotten your photos done, and you're kind of like, now what? What's the next move? Yep. And that's when we were like, hey, I think it'd be good to start cold approach, right? So that's really when you went all in on both. You're like, I'm gonna start swiping a lot, start going out and doing approaches. And as we'll get in, you found results pretty quickly, which was good.
And I think that's why I was like supported you guys and think you've got a great program going, because I'm sure you see it with your other clients as well. Like, even though my girlfriend was from online, because I think it was like I went from not having a date in 5 years to then I think it was like 5 dates in a week. And I think it was like maybe 2 were from online and 3 were from cold approach that week.
And it was your first week of cold approach that you got those numbers.
Yeah. The thing is because it was like now I had options.
Right.
That's the key.
Because before, I think when you don't have like that quote unquote lead flow coming in, it would have been the first somewhat attractive woman. I would have fallen in love with them like in 2 minutes kind of thing. Because imagine like you've gone that long without even really an interaction with a girl,
Yes.
But I remember like there was even, I think it was a date on the Friday, and it was a girl that I thought I was she was from cold approach. I thought that was going to be my exact type, and she was physically my type. But then when we went on the date, I was like, oh, actually, no, she's not what I'm looking for, because I have this sense of like comparison now.
And before, had you not had that comparison, you might have tried to force it to work.
Yeah.
I'm going to make her be exactly who I want. Ignore the red flags. I remember you coming to me like, yeah, it was all right.
Yeah.
And the fact that though you were just able to say that so calmly, like you're like, yeah, whatever. Like there'll be more. I was like, okay, he's starting to get it. He's starting to understand.
And I think like when you combine the cold approach with the online, because online can sometimes be laborious, sometimes in some ways of like you can get a lot of matches, but then
the
conversion, you might not get dates, like it's not like you get 10 matches and 10 dates kind of thing, whereas
this guy might,
well,
for the average human being,
for normal people, us being mortals, that's where like you supplement that with the cold approach, because the cold approach might be less volume but better in terms of conversion because they've met you in person. So I think it was like of the X amount of people I'd met from cold approach, the likelihood of going on a date was a lot higher, compared to the number of matches on a Bumble. So having both, it meant that like I had those options kind of like going for me, and then I was like, okay, like this one, she's not really what I'm looking for, and then it's just really like out of all those girls that I'd met, and gone on first dates. And then it's just like, okay, like who is the one that's like actually starting to stick out? And then, the one that happened to stick out is the person that's now my girlfriend.
Touching a couple of those points, like with the cold approach, like you were able to approach it was one of his first cold approaches. It was the Russian model.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, I remember her.
So had you tried to slide into her DMs, like just like any normal dude would?
Oh
you would've just
yeah.
been-
Wow, that would. I would think she would have blocked me straight away and stuff like
You
that.
probably wouldn't even have made it into the DMs. You would have made it into the.
It would have
the
just
rest
gone
of
into
the-
the because someone like like looks like that and has that kind of Instagram kind
She's
of
an Instagram
look,
girl,
like
too,
an
yeah.
Instagram look. And I think that's what I was trying to talk about in terms of how your offline can help your online, because
Yeah,
it's kind of like, if it's like, wow, like I was able to like go on a date with this quote unquote model type girl, and then it's like, your
They lose their allure online, maybe.
well, not necessarily that, but it's like your actual confidence improves, right? The problem with sometimes the online, if you're doing the online only,
Yeah.
is the algorithm is what validates your sense of attractiveness,
Sure.
right? And I remember this in London. Oh my gosh, like there were sometimes back in London where I was like, and it was like insulting, like, do you know what I mean? Like it was like kind of like, what? Like this is what I'm matching with? Like, am I that ugly? Like,
Yeah.
And so you start to get into your head a little bit. So sometimes when you're like, oh shit, like there's a super, attractive girl. And when we were doing the cold approach, I think to shout out what you do, which I think makes you different. So it wasn't like go and talk to this girl that's a 4 out of 10, a 6 out of 10, and relative, right? It was only talk to girls that I found attractive, know?
Yeah.
So and then just getting that sort of sense of validation of like, oh wow, they actually are interested in me.
Yeah.
They're nice and they're stoked at the fact that I came up to them. And not only are they not going to shut me down and be really crappy about it, but I made their day.
Yep.
Right. I remember your date too you had with the Russian model, because she met us at a pool party.
Yep.
And you're like, it was a good date. Like it was a good time. Like we had a good time. She was really engaged. And I'm sure that was part of it, because she's like, finally, a guy that actually came up to me. And like,
Yes.
Rather
had
than
the
just
balls to
looked
say
at
hi.
her.
Yep.
And it didn't work out, obviously, because you met your girlfriend now. But it was just a really reaffirming thing that what you were doing was working.
Yes.
So that's fantastic to hear a story. I always love hearing when guys get results. And I always joke whenever I work with someone personally, or now Joel and I are obviously working together, for those who have been following the channel for a while, my clients always get better results than I do and a lot quicker than I did, which I suppose is the value of getting a coach in the first place. But I'm curious to take a step back and see, what is it that you had tried before?
Yeah, so in my early 20s, I tried, and they were good coaches at the time, and they did help me get results, because, back in my early 20s, I couldn't even talk to a girl sort of thing, right? So that helped me a lot in terms of just like understanding how to talk and stuff like that. The difference was, though, is that like, and this is something that we had to overcome together, was that I was like, okay, I would go on a great date and then not knowing what to do next. I wouldn't know how to like go past the progression of where things should go and leading and stuff like that. So it was great in terms of, going on a date and making someone laugh or this kind of stuff. And then like, I think I did try to look into, I think I actually did end up buying it, or maybe I, had access to it, but I never really ran it. It was the whole social game kind of thing, the Michael Sartain kind of thing.
Yeah.
With that, I think it was one of those things where I think it looks maybe cooler than maybe it is on like social media and stuff like that. And maybe at the time where I'm at in my life, that's also not what I'm looking for.
Right.
Like I'm not really that interested in hanging out and going partying all the time.
Yeah,
or
Just to take pictures with hot chicks?
yeah, all this sort of stuff, like I wanted something that was much more meaningful, someone that could give me that support in my life, that kind of femininity to my sort of masculinity. I think like when we first started working together, is what was helpful for me was like sort of just understanding that there's like every guy is going to have a different goal. Some guys want to do the whole rotation thing, and that's completely fine. And some guys want, more like me, want a more long-term sort of meaningful relationship, which is also equally fine as well. So Jaren's like kind of program, and then kind of on the, is really like just explaining that there are these different options, and these options are kind of dependent on what your goal is in the first place.
Right.
You know?
Those are the first 2 modules. The first one's just mindset makeover. Number
Yeah.
2 is like, here's all of these other options you have out there. Because a lot of guys come, they're like, I need help with dating. I'm like, well, what are you looking for?
Yeah.
And 99% of the time I get the answer like, oh, I never really thought about that.
Because that's the thing. It's like when you know what you're looking for, then the dating became easier. Because
Sure,
I wasn't
sure.
just basing my dates or conversations or my interactions with the girls based on just their looks.
Yeah.
So it was just like, okay, I'm looking for this, I'm solving for this. So and this is the kind of model I want to follow, which is a more long-term monogamous model,
Yeah.
right? More traditional model, I guess. And so I'm looking for someone that's going to be more traditional.
Yes.
And so it's almost like what I found was like, it was very easy to actually go like, well, that girl's attractive, but she's not what I'm looking
For
for
me.
at this moment in time,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And so then it became a lot easier to kind of just go like, okay, well, so when I did make the decision to have a girlfriend, it was quite an easy decision.
Okay.
You know, it wasn't like something like I was like, oh my gosh, like, should I do this? Should I not? It just was like, yeah, this is the
makes
right
sense.
person.
That-
Yeah.
That's our goal for our guys too, is for them to become the selector. Because a lot of guys come to us and they pretty much just take, and you mentioned earlier, the attitude before coming with us, I'll just take whatever I can get. You know, first girl who shows me some affection and she's attractive, okay, I want that. And I always teach my guys and instill it in their heads, you are the selector. So when you create options for yourself, then you get to see like, oh yeah, she checks this boxes, but this is kind of a deal breaker for me. So next, and now you're the one disqualifying girls rather than girls disqualifying you.
And I think that's a really good point, because we hear about like red flags, green flags, and stuff like that. But at the same time, like I think someone's red flag could be someone else's green flag in some ways, because
So true.
because it really depends on what you're trying to achieve in the first place. Right.
Yeah.
Like if you were looking for just a girl that want to be in your rotation, then maybe someone that was like doing the more traditional kind of courtship sort of thing would technically be a red flag for you or you, but a green flag for me, if that makes sense. That's where, Jaren's kind of mindset on things sort of helped me, because especially with that red pill content that had been going on in my head for like last 5 years, there is that kind of like judgmental, approach to sort of like a girl doing this is bad or a bad woman, but it's the right woman for the right person at the right time. Yeah, and that's what I mean, is that I think because of social media and stuff like that, it's like we can kind of think we know what we want, but actually it's just what social media is telling us.
Defined by
what,
someone else.
what
Or the
to
algorithm,
want.
like you said earlier.
Well, exactly, right? So I did initially, and that's why I ended up buying that program, was like, oh yeah, like, I'm making all this money, so like naturally, yeah, this would make sense, right? Like, and that's what I thought I wanted, and that, these Instagram type models, but quite frankly, I don't want to be out till 2, 3, 4 a.m. in the morning. I have businesses and stuff like that. And also, I don't really, party that much anymore, not like I used to. I don't really drink anymore. What I wanted was, someone to just have, fun with and date and stuff like that. And I also wanted to have someone that I could have more like deeper, more meaningful connection and conversations with. Generally, if you're someone that has tons of attention, through a social media profile or all this, generally you might end up being more of like that shallow type person.
Okay.
Your attention's divided amongst all of these opportunities.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah. And typically we don't work with those guys on average either. If you do end up working with us, like, you'll meet Ameer, we'll hang out together. We usually go out, grab dinner a few times a week. We become like, it's like a brotherhood really, more than just guys trying to date and stuff.
Yeah, we had a sales appointment earlier, and I think the guy's eyes really lit up. I was like, hey, to be honest, you're going to go through this program really quickly. You'll probably get results way quicker than we even promised you. That's what we see with all of our clients. And then we'll just end up hanging out. Like, we'll just end up being friends.
It's obviously still not something that you can just like advertise on your program. Like, yeah, we'll be your friends kind of thing. But I think that like, that is something that I think we're all quite grateful for. Because also what I didn't want to have, and I think this is maybe just based on experience of what I'd seen from my friend circle in London, right? And kind of like, I guess because I like hadn't been in a relationship so long, but then seen everyone around me in these relationships, but then also see people maybe break up and stuff like that. And
seeing unhealthy relationships, which is the norm in society.
Exactly, right? And just sort of going like, okay, like when I do get into a relationship, I definitely don't want to make this mistake, which is you've got a relationship now, and then you have no guy friends, you have no people to hang out, you don't have that brotherhood and stuff like that.
Right.
So, for example, today, like I could have seen my girlfriend. I wanted to make sure that like, I take the time to spend with my friends and have a sort of more balanced lifestyle. But also, it's like I think and we've talked about this as well. Is like you want that like kind of bit of space here and there,
100%.
for yourself to sort of because I'm like an extroverted person that has like some introverted characteristics, like sort of thing. I am definitely extroverted, but then the I think last week when we had that dinner, but I'd been out for dinner like pretty much every day that week.
Yeah.
And then Saturday I was just like, I don't want to do anything. I don't want to talk to anyone.
Right. Right.
So sometimes having that little gap in between, and sort of then it means tomorrow I'm seeing her, and it's just like it means I'm going to appreciate her that much more.
That's such a great point, because guys fall into the trap. They get a girlfriend and they just want to see her all the time. Like, hey, I haven't had a girlfriend in years. We're going to hang out every single day. And the girls might like that at first. They might respond well. What you find is that you lose that mystery. And this is something we teach you guys, is that we talk a lot about it on the channel. A girl wants to discover you like a novel over a 20-year period. For a lot of guys, I was one of these people too. I essentially blew my load too quick. I was like, hey, this is everything you need to know about me, my trauma, all my history. Here it is. It's been 20 minutes, your turn.
Yeah.
You'd be like, all right, man, like, this is no fun. There's nothing left.
Yep.
So I think you're doing a really good job at spacing things out very well with your girlfriend. Like, you don't see her all the time. You see her once, maybe twice a week. And she appreciates that, even though the girl might tell you, I want to see you more. But really they don't. They don't. It's a test to see if you are going to break and be the guy that's just over available, super needy and stuff.
And this is why having in that sort of friendship circle of sort of like-minded guys is important, because it was like, I think I saw her like already this week, like early in the week, and then I'm seeing her tomorrow. So it was tempting. I was like, oh yeah, like you could come over or whatever, because she was nearby and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I was like, no, I've got this plan with you guys and stuff like that, and it's just sort of important to have that space, even though she might say tomorrow like, oh, blah blah blah,
You risk her losing interest tomorrow, but you found that doesn't really happen.
Exactly, and that was like a kind of mindset I originally had, though. Like it was like, oh no, like I don't want to lose them and this sort of thing. But even I remember, like even after having a girlfriend, I would still come out with you guys just to watch. I was just like sort of live vicariously through you in Cold Approach and the mall and stuff like that.
Because your ass was getting good right as you stopped.
Yeah, I know.
It was getting real good. Yeah. Like we had this session. If you go to our Instagram, you can see some of his approaches. And just one day, he just showed up and was absolutely crushing it. And it was like a 0 to 60.
Then got a girlfriend the next week.
I was like, oh, we're gonna just roll together. Coming back to the point of the guys, though, I think that's a really important point. You need to have masculinity in your life outside of just yourself. Cold approach in online dating too, like facing that fear, it's going to allow you to go up to that homie you see at the gym. All that stuff is going to help you build relationships outside dating itself.
Well, actually, you make a good point. So, who obviously I met at an event,
Discourse,
and then obviously he's now a client of yours and mutual friend.
Yeah.
That was when I kind of was like early into Cold Approach. Now I'd go to that event. It's a weekly event here in Mexico City. It's like a language exchange. A lot of foreigners and some Mexicans sort of mingle and stuff. And I remember like I would go a few weeks before, started with the Cold Approach. I think I was only working with Jaron at the time. Go there, like go to the bar, get a drink, walk around, like not even talk to anyone.
Okay.
We see most of the guys are like that because we go there to find clients.
Yeah.
We go there to prospect.
And
girls and guys.
and so like kind of like to your point, it was like me just like by that point I'd done a bit of Cold Approach and I was trying it with the girls, and then ended up talking to, and now we've become really good friends, and obviously we're all friends now, and slash he's also a client as well.
Yes.
Yeah. So even though like the cold approach, it wasn't what led me to my girlfriend,
Right.
but that was just by chance. It just happened to be from the online. But that's why I think you need both, because you don't know, and you just want to. Equally, it could have come from cold approach, or equally could have come from online.
Correct.
But technically, I've made some good friends and new friends from applying that same skill set. But just because all cold approach is essentially you being able to talk to anyone.
Pretty much, yeah. That's it.
And communicate your desire.
Yeah.
And ultimately, either determine, is this person a fit for what I'm looking for, or is this person not? And I'm curious if, to any degree, how it's impacted you in business, even now that you can just talk to anyone. I mean, really, at the end of the day, that's what the skill is.
Yeah, so it's funny. So because I grew up such an introvert, very shy, and then I kind of learned, how to talk to people and stuff like that. But it was like literally like almost like I had to learn by reading a book and then like apply it and stuff like that. And now it's more of a natural part of me. And I think this is quite common, like where you're extroverted with people that you're kind of comfortable with, but they can be quite introverted with new people.
Okay.
So
like a child.
Yeah.
In a grocery store.
Yeah, like basically like kind of like when you're with your friends and stuff, and you're super talkative and stuff like that. But then like if you put yourself, a bunch of new people in a room, you're going to be a bit more shy. So in business, like there was two things, right? Like, and I used to sort of say this to you, especially during our first sort of cold approach session. I was like, making money is easy compared to this.
Yeah.
I was like, this is the hardest fucking thing like I've ever done in my life, which is exactly why I think it's such a good thing to do, because A, I think it's a dying art, but B, I honestly think that like most people that are quote unquote successful or achieved a lot and stuff like that, I still think there's some kind of fight or flight or some kind of like natural sort of feeling of like you're putting yourself out there to someone and you don't know what the result is going to be.
You're vulnerable. You're burying yourself.
And you're exactly, and you're showing that kind of vulnerability, and there's not really anything you can hide behind.
Right. It's just you.
It's just you, and especially when it's in that daytime environment. Like when it's like nighttime environment, it's slightly different. You can maybe
it's dark.
Or you could have a table, and there's props. There's more props you can potentially use. You can have a social circle, all these sorts of things, right? But when you're in a bloody Zara, or Zara was like our favorite place to go. You see this person and you're like, wow, that's super attractive. And, eventually like you actually go for it and you have a conversation, whether it went well or not. I think there's something that is like, wow, like I could do that. Like I could do pretty much anything.
Yep.
Because I think everyone works hard and, makes money or, does these things, just people do it at different levels to it.
Right.
But I would argue that it's literally like if you have 100 people, maybe 1% would even do any kind of cold approach, and then everyone else is doing nothing.
We've even broke it down to like, they say like 1% of guys do this. I think it's like 0.0001%.
Yeah.
And night game's a skill in itself, let me tell you. But you are so right. Like there's props. Like even the nightclub itself is a prop. Yep. And you're going there to socialize. So it's socially acceptable. And I think what I've seen with you and our other clients as well, the biggest hurdle is just getting over the fact that it's not socially normal.
I was going to bring up that point too. Yep. Usually when you ask guys about cold approach, most guys don't even know what it means. And then when you explain it to them, they think it's ridiculous. A lot of guys, like these too cool for school type guys, they kind of laugh because we met guys out and about. Like, yeah.
I think it's, especially in the Western world, obviously it's even more so of a lost art.
Yeah.
I would say in Mexico, it's still a lost art in the sense that, or I don't think it's even an art, if that makes sense here, in terms of.
Oh, they'll whistle at girls and yell at them.
Yeah, like no Mexican guys really doing it. Apart from Quetzal and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I think like Mexico City in general is a great environment for it because there is and that's the other thing that I had to kind of unlearn was I was bringing a lot of kind of Western society sort of programming of like what women are like to Mexico.
Totally, man.
I can't remember exactly how many cold approaches I've done, but not one of them was the who the hell are you, or the kind of piss off, or I've got
Yep.
a man, or like, I'm calling the police, all
Yeah.
these things that were kind of in my head. Like, even I remember it was like and it was a really eye-opening one. I remember it was like maybe my second session cold approaching, and it was this lady, and I did the whole bloody that thing, the stop thing. I think it was my first time doing that, and did the whole thing, the script and stuff like that. She goes, "Oh, I'm so sorry, but I'm married." And I remember going like, "Oh wow, like she's married and stuff like that." But she didn't. She could have just like fuck off, like like
right,
that
right.
kind of
I'm
thing.
taken. Yeah.
But the fact that this she was having the whole conversation, answer my questions, asking me questions, like just being a good person, nice person.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I could also see that, and maybe because she's married, and maybe she might have felt like, is she still attractive, or those kinds of things that is quite
So I'm saying,
natural.
you'll still make her day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I could tell that because she left with a smile, and so that definitely changed my mindset to it.
Okay.
And I think that's why, like, with the approaching and stuff, it felt like I wasn't really annoying anyone.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the culture, but also because I kind of reprogram my mindset to actually, that energy kind of translates as well.
Definitely. I remember that approach, and it was like, I think maybe our first or second session. And I was watching from afar because I'll be standing like taking pictures. And I was like, oh, this is going great. And you came back and you was like, yeah, it was great. She got a husband. And there was no disappointment. There's no defeat. And I think it's crazy how even though she had a husband, you guys never went on a date, that one approach gave you so much confidence because of just how positively she responded. There was no one taking a video and putting it on TikTok. There was no, she wasn't getting her pepper spray out. It was just like, wow, this is a handsome guy. He's coming up to me and he's saying hi. Like, this is traditional. And a lot of women want that. A lot of women say they want a man to just be a man again. Because of how things have changed, like, it's very easy to, to use other options, right? Which is this art in itself, right?
Yep.
And when you can do it properly, like you do it properly, so it comes across in that masculine to feminine way. But a lot of guys don't. A lot of guys have mirror selfies and they're, on their toilet, just whatever the situation is. So for you, like, you had really good pictures, you really looked professional, and probably that's maybe why
The photos pop too.
the photos were sick, man.
Yeah, that was a good session.
And you can look through our archives to find his old photo. Very different
Bloody
man.
hell. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that also helps. Just don't look like shit.
yeah. You don't have to be at your peak. Like, sometimes, like, Jared and I will approach. We'll be at the gym. Like, I'll be in fucking like a pair of shorts I've worn for 2 days. Like, I don't smell great, but just don't look like a bum.
Yeah.
Don't look like a bum.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, it's certainly been a pleasure working with you. I think you came on board. It hasn't even been that long. It's been 6, 7, 8 months, not even. And you made results very quickly. And I think, again, you can accredit that to success you had in other areas of your life. You just had to be led to believe it was possible to do this in the dating vertical of your life as well. So I'm curious, what does your life look like now compared to how it did before when it comes to dating?
I'll go back to that back in February, that whole thing where, like, made all this money, but that feeling of just being so lonely, because it's I think, and it's like, I just want to clarify, it's like there's like loneliness when you have like no one, and then there's like loneliness when you have people around you, like have friends and stuff, but then it's almost like,
I always say that's the worst, being lonely in a crowded room.
yeah. And it's like I remember, like, when I would like deliberately like go out with like guy friends and stuff like that, just to sort of do something to feel like, I'm not lonely, sort of thing. And I, technically I'm not lonely. I have great friends and stuff, but it's almost like that there's a different type of loneliness when you don't have that female connection.
Right. 100%.
That, and it's really, I think what we're talking about is intimacy.
Yeah.
Because I love you guys, but we're not cuddling in bed, kind of thing, right? And so it's that feeling of intimacy that a lot of guys like crave,
right?
Pretty much every guy, right?
Yeah.
And so my life now is that like went on all these dates and stuff, and then was able to find really the type of person that I was looking for from day one, right? And obviously you guys have met her and stuff like that, and even people were, at my birthday and stuff like that, like they were saying, "Oh yeah, like this is exactly what you were looking for." Even I think Keon said it, I think you said it. So even Max said it, and Max is a hard person to please.
You get his approval. It's like
yeah, exactly,
the angry
right?
dad. It's like, I love you, son.
Yeah, exactly. So just sort of knowing that, and then just looking at the type of person that she is, I couldn't ask for anything more. It's like, she's attractive, sure, right? But that's like the
cherry on top.
That I think I have a kind of philosophy of like, as long as they're attractive enough to you, which is like that's 7 out of 10 to you, then and it kind of goes back to that kind of thing about the Sartain thing, right? It's like, yeah, you can go and I was in Miami recently, and this is quite known as like the Miami culture, where you see a bunch of rich guys with these like quote unquote 10 out of 10 model type women, but then the relationship is terrible.
Yeah,
it's super superficial.
I see that all the time in those cities.
It's like LA, Miami, like probably Dubai, London, like these types of big cities. And so I kind of knew that like what I was also looking for was where, yes, I work hard and I make good money and stuff like that. So it's not like I needed. In fact, it would be the opposite of what I was looking for if I was to date or be with like a girl that's like trying to compete with me financially, which is something that you see a lot in the Western world.
Yes.
And
yet she'll still want you to cover everything.
Well, it's that, but then there's also that kind of, we've talked about the sort of masculine energy and feminine energy.
You're both in your
sort
masculine,
of thing,
that's
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so with her, it's and I remember I said this very early on in our dates, and I said like, really, like I've already achieved quite a lot in my life. I'm looking for like just a girl to like, and I kind of made it as a joke, but it's kind of funny because I think she took it literally, and it's a good thing she took it literally. It was like, I was like, yeah, just someone who's gonna make my coffee in the morning, and then like she does do that, and she's and it's cute that she's doing it, and she's like, and so I very much believe that one of the problems with, and this is why I do believe that as a man you do need to also focus on getting your money right and stuff like that, because a lot of the kind of problems with like Western world is not just like a feminism movement. It's also like because of the like economic problems that the Western world has and the cost of living crisis, it's no longer possible for the average man making say 50 grand a year. Like back in the day, like when when I was a kid, 50 grand a year, like my dad, if he was making 50 grand a year, that's enough to feed a family of 5.
Yep.
Right.
In the Western world, and that's not enough to survive by yourself. So what's happened is that you have these like kind of now two income households, right?
Yes.
And then it's like then the female needs to take on more masculine traits because she's kind of having to do that. So what I realized was that like because I'm able to take care of her. She's able to take care of me. And it's weird because it's like as a guy, like I don't need her to do much in a way, but it's just those small things mean a lot to me. She'll, make the coffee or whatever, which is great. But then it's just the stuff like when, I think I went outside the room to, I don't know, I can't remember what I was doing. But then when I came back, she's already like doing the bed and stuff like that. So it's like, it's just like these sort of like feminine traditional things, and again this was because I knew exactly what I was looking for.
It's a litmus test. When I'm dating a new girl, I'll notice it doesn't matter if she makes the bed or not. I could care less. It's not a requirement, but I notice when she does. I'm like,
and it's funny that like sometimes guys, is we don't really want too much. Like we're not actually trying to. We are quite simple-minded. Yeah, we are quite simple-minded in terms of like there are these like small things that women can do that can make a huge difference. But likewise, like we went the other day to.
That's not Luis Miguel.
Yeah. So she
took her to
she for some reason, even though she's 22, loves Luis Miguel, and when I was learning Spanish, I couldn't understand any. I was trying to listen to Spanish songs. I couldn't understand any other songs, but somehow I discovered him too, and there were slower songs, so I could like understand them, and so I'd listen to them, and I ended up liking him as well. So we ended up going, and they were expensive tickets. They were like in the VIP section. We were like basically like row 8 or something like that. So we were like pretty much
smell them.
Yeah, basically they were like $2,000 tickets or something like that. But it's one of those things where I have resources, sure, but like me being able, what I also wanted was like the idea that I could add to a girl's life, because like there's nothing worse, I think, as a sort of a guy who wants to be like a provider, where it's like, you maybe take someone to a nice restaurant and they've already been there before.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
I know exactly what you mean.
Yes. Like that kind of like, and you see that a lot in London, Miami, or all these places. Whereas I think, that's why I wanted to sort of date someone or be with someone that was like super feminine, traditional, or whatever, but, was someone that I could like.
You can show her the world.
Show her the world. Exactly.
I hear that. The reason I say that, I hear that from pretty much every guy I've ever worked with.
That's beautiful, man. Like, I guess Aladdin was made for a reason, right?
Yeah, exactly, right? Like, but it is that. I think there's definitely a great feeling that comes with that, where someone is actually grateful for what you've done,
And what's great is women can show that very simply, just like you said, like showing like, hey, I'm going to make you your coffee. I'm going to make your life easier. I was watching a podcast the other day, and it was a reminder, like, he's like, what guys just want is peace.
Yes.
That's it. We're very simple. We just want peace.
Especially when you're actually a guy that's trying to like, where you do have like positions where you are taking on
responsibility,
a lot of responsibility, a lot of stress, a lot of like, and so like I don't, and I still to this day I don't actually think she knows what I do for work,
which is great.
Most of them don't. Nor do they care.
The other day, she was working from home, so she was working my place, and I'm on a call, and I'm talking about all sorts of stuff, and it's nice because it's like she doesn't really ask, or she doesn't, because it's, and I kind of don't need her to, it's kind of like that means like, but then it's like once that come 5 p.m. or whatever my call finishes, and then she's just there, and it's like now I can like
turn off work mode.
So I guess it's like, because I'm like, especially when you're like trying to make all this money and stuff like that, it's like your masculine is like super high. So you almost kind of like, to your point, you do need that feminine energy to sort of like bring you slightly down, like, and it's like, is that always that delicate balance, Whereas like, I think like you maybe see this in like movies with like, like Wolf of Wall Street or whatever, where you're doing this like hyper masculine stuff of like making all this money, and then you go out with the guys, but then it's like, okay, where do we go from here? Okay, let's get on the cocaine, let's go on the strip club, or whatever. And that's how people go too far the other way, because they don't have that balance.
The women, they kind of ground you.
Yes,
it seems.
They do ground you. And
in terms of questions, I was thinking maybe a couple more. Would you say it's worth it? And then maybe expand upon that. And then to anyone on the fence.
Yes. Yeah. Those are the two last questions.
Cool.
Yeah.
Did want to make a point on that. I just lose it, and I'll remember it.
We're talking about grounding, bringing the masculinity back down to a manageable level.
Right before that, we were talking about peace.
Yep.
And then okay, here we go. And to the point on peace, like, think about it. All the money we're trying to make, the businesses we're creating, what's it intentional? The intention is to create peace, financial peace in our life, peace for our family, peace for our future selves, right? So really, that's a testament to all we want is peace. And you found a woman that can give you that on that level. She's not going to help you with your work. She's not going to, I mean, she does like inadvertently, because she's being a support to you.
Yes.
So you're more confident, you're more motivated at work. And I love too how you didn't tell her what you do. And this is a great thing, guys. Like, don't tell her what you do. Like, make something up. I always say, like, I wash car windows in Mexico. And she's like, okay, you live in Polanco, you don't wash
Yeah.
car windows.
I always say I'm a consultant, and then she asks, "What does a consultant do?" And I say, "That's the beauty. A consultant doesn't really do anything."
I watch Netflix and
Yeah.
go out with the boys.
Or I had a girl the other day. She's like, "You guys are like modern day digital nomad cupids." I'm like, "Nailed it, sweetie."
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
you're on point.
Hell yeah. And for you, like, because you didn't tell her what you do, that adds to the mystery. So one day she's going to know. 5-10 years down the line, she'll know exactly what you do. But she won't know all the details, of course. But that'll be such a big moment when she's like, oh, this is what he finally does. Like, he's a high level business guy. Like, holy shit. Like, that's, because she's probably still like, has this, you're still probably like a big question mark over you. There's a lot of points. And that's what makes her attractive and keeps wanting her to find out more. I think it's really good, the strategy you're using on that. And guys, that'd be a tip for the day. Like, if you're dating a girl, like, work on saying more with less. Mm-hmm. So give clues onto what you do by, like Ameer said, showing her your lifestyle. You got her really expensive tickets, right? That says a lot versus you saying, I make this much every month. Like, that's so much
It's
more
like that sort of show, not tell sort of thing,
Yep.
you know?
Jared, you had a couple more questions that you wanted to run through.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I mean, we've been going for a bit. It's definitely nice you sharing your experiences with us and even the audience. We've worked together in a coaching capacity for a while, but I don't think I've solicited too much feedback aside from it, like, hey, you're getting everything you wanted. Did we tackle what you wanted to cover today? How are things going? But it's definitely great sharing your story. At the end of the day, what do you say? Is it worth it?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's an easy answer because I keep going back to this whole point in February, which was just before I, got that initial call with you, earning, basically more than 6 figures in a month, right? And basically like having everything but nothing at the same time.
Ah, wow. That's deep.
And then going like, shit, like, fuck, like what? Like, so absolutely it was worth it because like, I'm saying that like that decision to like make that change. And now like I've kind of like solved that part of my life. Now, like, it's like, technically I have this kind of feeling of peace of like money is great and, coming in and all that sort of stuff. But it's like, I have that feeling of like, well, like my life is actually pretty good at the moment, And then there's like other aspects like, now I'm like more focused on my fitness and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And like, so it's like when you kind of solve different parts, and then you just like have that peace in one part, and then you can just like focus on other things, and that's kind of like what I was looking for. So yeah, absolutely, it's worth it, especially because of sort of with what you do together, and because I'm in the marketing industry and I know this kind of coaching space very well. What I like about you guys the most is you don't try to go like, this is the only way to do it. You need to follow this way because technically what the model that you do or the thing that you're solving for is very different to what I was looking for in the first place. And so you also help me like be open to different ways of doing things as well. Because at first I was like very much like, and I think a lot of guys might automatically think this is why I want a girlfriend. But that was because I like literally hadn't been on a date in 5 years. Of course, like everyone wants, that's the natural solution. But it was only like once I started going on dates and then it kind of was like, yeah, I do actually want a girlfriend, but not because it's because I need to fill some kind of gap in my heart sort of thing. It's actually like based on like where I am in my life and kind of what is in front of me as well, that I'd actually found someone that was like the ideal girlfriend type.
Right.
Then I made that decision.
Okay.
Not just like kind of like what I think you talked about, where you meet one person, they kind of tick some boxes, and then you're like, oh my god, I need to latch onto this person, and by making them my girlfriend, I'll somehow it's
find
securing
completion.
the ball, the bag. Sorry,
I did that when I first came down here, actually. And
Yeah, I warned you against that. Blew up your rotation. I'm like, all right, see how this ends.
I didn't listen to Coach, guys.
Yeah.
And she had so many red flags for me, and I tried to paint them green and force myself into a relationship with her. And, you know, as soon as it started, it ended. And it just crushed me because I was like, this is it. This is what I've been solving for my whole life.
Yep.
And then you ran into her again months later with a girl you're now with and very happy with, who I'd say objectively is superior in every way, and you're quite satisfied with that.
It was egoically satisfying. I can't lie, because you know, I had talked to her, like I saw her at the party, and I went up to her and I was like, "Hey, how you doing?" or whatever, being polite. And she had that like awkward, like I could tell she was trying not to laugh, like almost like wow, like. And she was with a friend, and I saw him like laughing a little bit earlier. Afterwards, and you know, they're kind of like, it wasn't like a friendly like he was so cute laugh. It was like I dated this guy laugh, right? And I saw it and I went, okay, you know, to just stay calm, right? Higher power, universe is on my side. My girl shows up and I just like, their whole expression changed. They just went like, the girl, like her friend just wouldn't stop looking because she just went, wait, I thought this guy was a loser because she just explained it, but now he's like with a girl that's more attractive than both of us.
And you can
What?
see that you're both very happy, and she was very into you. It's,
Yeah.
it's funny how that expression changes, doesn't it? I get so much satisfaction out of those situations.
Yes. So thank you, Coach, for that. So yeah, for anyone on the fence thinking about hiring a coach, diving into this self-development journey, what would you advise them?
Or working with us specifically.
Yeah, working with us specifically, yeah.
Well, obviously it's absolutely worth it. But B, I think it's because the thing is, like, investing in myself is nothing new to me. So, you know, I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on my own self. So that's why, like, you know, when I came on the call with Jan, it was such an easy sale, so to speak, because it's not difficult for me to invest in myself.
Right.
So I don't want to kind of like just be like, yeah, like, you know, go for it, you know, kind of thing, because like, I'm assuming the person that might be watching this might never have invested in themselves before,
Right.
you know? So I'll actually use more so as an example, because when I met him and then referred him to you guys, he'd nenever invested in himself. And he had this whole thing about like finding a coach and you know, all this sort of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Because, you know, the people that I'm kind of my sort of social group, like, and actually funny enough, like that's why Ephraim was such an easy sale.
Yeah, right.
Or, you know, because like we, you know, are in this kind of space of like self-improvement sort of thing, right?
You understand the language, you understand the process.
But on YouTube, that might not be everyone. That might be, you know, me more like 5 years ago, where it was like you'd come up with every single objection in your head or reason not to do something.
Yeah.
You know, but it's almost like if you're someone that's like doing that, like coming up with reasons not to do something, that's probably the reason why you should do it. In the same way that there's going to be 100 reasons not to cold approach a girl.
I always tell my guys when they start giving the excuses and the objections, and you work in sales too, so naturally there's going to be objections. But I always ask them at the end of the day, is like, do you not believe in yourself? Do you not believe you're worth it? Because if you truly believe you're not worth an investment to meet the love of your life or whatever it is you're looking for in the dating space, then how the hell are you going to convince a girl that you're worth it?
Yeah.
Like we don't. If you're in that position, we don't want to work with you anyways, because you're just not going to have success in anything you do.
Yeah.
Sure.
And that's what I mean is it's like there will be that kind of, you know, you can jump on a call with these guys and there will be that like, oh my gosh, so much, you know, it's a lot of money, or I could figure it out myself. And we talked about like how I got results so quickly, and it's like the whole point of investing in a coach is because like you're buying the experience, right? You're buying.
I made all those mistakes for you.
Exactly.
Over 20
right?
years or whatever.
So it's like you're buying not. It's a bit like the, you know, we used to use this analogy. It's like when you get heart surgery, right? And it costs $50,000 for heart surgery, and you need it to save your life, and it takes the person an hour to fix the problem. You're not paying $50,000 for an hour. You're paying $50,000 for the 10 years of medical school the person took to not kill you.
Yeah, right.
Right? So it's the same point. It's like these guys, you know, you two are obviously good at what you've done. You've done like 15 million approaches, and, you know, give or take, and, you know, vice versa, but for the online side of things, right? So it's like you guys have done all the mistakes, all the, you know, all the stuff, even like, you know, with cold approach, the script and, you know, the assumption stuff and all that stuff that you do on your side, and then the stuff that you do on your side, like, and, you know, I know we've talked a lot more about cold approach, but at the same time, like, if it wasn't for that session where we did the profile and then the sequences of what to say, and my girlfriend, who's my girlfriend now, she said exactly, you know, she said, oh, you stood out because of this, because, you know, you actually asked me out on a day and you weren't trying to. And so actually it was because of those sequences and because of the profile and, you know, the pictures and, you know, all that stuff, the CTA and all this stuff that we did on the online stuff that actually ended up resulting in the result that I wanted. I could have maybe joined it, you know, I could have maybe got the photos half-assed, you know, because I didn't know what to do. Or the profile could have been just like any other profile and stuff like that. Or it could have been the you know, so at the end of the day, it's like all what I was buying was saving all the mistakes I could have made, you know, and then that's how you can get results far quicker. Because yes, I could do it myself or figure it out myself, but there's two things. You're probably going to go around in circles like really fast, you know, and you can make yourself trick yourself into feeling you're making progress, like going out to, I don't know, bars or something and talking drunkenly to girls and stuff, and then not getting anywhere. You know? So it's really like, are you getting closer to your goal? And like for me, like that's all that matters, you know, and obviously you guys have the experience to do it. And really, like, you know, I know I'm going to be the first testimonial, but, you know, I think you've got a couple of clients now between you, and everyone's sort of pretty much getting exactly what they wanted. So you guys are doing really well, you know.
It's nice. I was telling someone earlier, as a guy, sometimes it's really hard to find good guy friends, or especially 99.9% of guys just aren't good with women. So it's really hard when you get someone with you and they're making mistakes, like very beginner mistakes, and you're just like, man, I can't bring you around my girls because you're going to be weird and you're going to turn them off or whatever. It's nice that all of our clients end up becoming our friends. When we go out, like we just all get it. So not only do we get new clients, but ultimately we get new friends, and we're building our social network here as well. And the girls are starting to realize that because their friends and their friends of their friends are wanting to be a part of it. So we definitely have something going.
And I think that's a sort of really good point to end on, is that like a lot of guys have the, you know, it's kind of like, and it's just only because it reminded me of kind of like when I first started trying to get into the sort of cold approach or the dating thing in my early 20s. And it's also like being, you know, unfortunately, for whatever reason, most guys, it's that whole kind of like crabs in a bucket thing, where it's like the crab that tries to go out the bucket and then people try and pull them down. And that's unfortunately what most guys, their friend circles are like. You know, whether that's like a conscious or subconscious thing in their friend groups and stuff like that. Sometimes it's a cultural thing, you know.
Definitely.
So I think that like, likewise, how I probably helped you guys in the business sense, and,
more than you know,
you know, making, you know, increasing your income and stuff like that. I think that's also what's been a great sort of byproduct or side benefit of working together, is that kind of feeling of community, you know.
100%.
And that's why, like, you know, when you guys
We're in
bring
it
out
together.
You know, because I think Mexico City, you know, I think we all have goals of like really putting it on the map. You know, we all, you know, very much love the city and think it's a great city. And I think that like a lot of guys are looking for that bit of everything, you know. They want to live in the city, or they want to at least visit the city when you guys start doing your boot camps and stuff like that, you know. They want to enjoy the nightlife or the restaurants, but they don't want to, you know, because as a traveler, when I was traveling, like, there's nothing worse than going to a fancy restaurant by yourself, you know. So there's all these things of like, you know, yes, it's about dating and solving that part, but I think it's about also doing cool things with cool people as well, because that's also, I think, another problem that guys have is that like it's really hard to like just have a good group of friends that are actually also all trying to support each other to grow, you know?
Facts. Usually it's like trying to outcompete each other. And I'll say, yeah, man, you guys coming down here has been a huge blessing for myself. And I know I can speak for Darren as well. I feel like I have friends now with you guys. And, obviously Darren and I were good friends before this all started. There'd be times where you'd be busy or you'd be on dates or something. And it's like, it's like, I don't have a date. So it's a lot of intro time, but now I can reach out to you guys. I can, grab dinner with you guys. And I think to your point that we all grow together in a way that I couldn't have even imagined because these guys have a lot of money. Let's be frank. They're high net worth, high successful guys. They also want to be surrounded by high net worth, high successful guys. So it pushes us to be like, all right, it's time to get like our ass in the gear too, because we want
not like we weren't before, but it's taking us to the next level.
Yep. And then we want to be able to support, in return at some point along the line, because, it's something that you'll learn with dating is it's a giving as much as it is a taking. Like, yeah, you receive a lot. You receive companionship. You receive intimacy. You receive brotherhood. But you also need to learn how to give that as well. You have to give those experiences, give your energy and time as well. So you guys have taught me a lot about that and how to be generous, how to be open with your time and your money. And so we just want to say we appreciate it, man. It's been an absolute blessing.
So there you guys have it, folks. If you've made it until this far, to the very, very end, I hope you enjoyed Ameer's experience here. And if you're looking forward to taking the next step, which we certainly hope that you sitting down or standing up or out and about watching on whatever device you may be using decides to take that next step and get started with us today. I think there's really nothing you can lose at the end of it. And soon you could be here sitting down on the casting couch as well. So be sure to like, comment, So be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, ring the notification bell to be the first to be informed when the new content drops, and click on the link in the description before to, again, take that first step and get on a call with Joel and or myself, and we'll get you where exactly you need to be.